Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Enlightening India. Today, we'll be reading the fifth chapter of the book, Five Go to Smuggler Stop by Enid Blyton. Before we get into it, let us quickly summarize what happened last time. So, the children have finally reached Smuggler Stop, and Sooty opens the door to greet them. Uh, but then he sees Timmy. So, everybody's very worried on what's going to happen now. And George tells Sooty that she'll go back home if Timmy is not allowed here. And the previous chapter ends on a note where Sooty tells the kids, "Don't do that. We'll think of something. Come back." So they have left us at a cliffhanger. It's a sudden sort of mysterious ending on what is Sooty going to do. What are they thinking of? I think we'll get the answers to that in this book, and hopefully we'll have more unanswered questions at the end as the mystery proceeds. Chapter 5: Sooty Lenore. Sooty ran down the steps that led to the front door and tore after George. The others followed. Maribel went too, shutting the big front door behind her carefully. There was a small door in the wall just where George was. Sooty caught hold of her and pushed her through the door, holding it open for the others. So, as George was walking back to the car at the end of chapter 4, uh, Sooty and the others ran after her. Before running, they closed the main door that they had just opened to greet the children. And there was another small door besides the main door. So Sooty opens that door and tells all the children to get inside. Probably this is the hiding place. Let's read on. The children found themselves in a dark passage. There was a door at the farther end. "Wait here a minute, and I will see if the coast is clear," said Sooty. "I know my stepfather is in, and I tell you, if he sees the dog, he'll pack you all into the car again and send you back. And I don't want him to do that because I can't tell you how I've been looking forward to having you all." So they open the door and it leads to a dark passage. Okay, now I think something is brooming up here. Let's see. So before moving on, he tells everyone, "Shh, keep quiet. Let me check whether the coast is clear." So probably the dark passage has another opening where people can be there. So he just wants to make sure that they're completely safe. And before proceeding, before wherever they're going, he just wants to make sure that no one saw them get in. He grinned at them, and their hearts warmed towards him again, even George's, though she still felt angry at being so roughly pushed. So remember when they opened the gate, Sooty pushed George and Timmy into the passage because I think he just panicked. He didn't want anybody to see these two. He didn't want anybody to see Timmy. So in a haste, he roughly pushed them. So George was slightly angry with him on for that. But let's see. George kept Timmy close beside her. All the same, everyone felt a bit scared of Mr. Lenore. He sounded rather a fierce sort of person. So fierce is angry, a hot-tempered person who could suddenly become angry. Sooty tiptoed to the door at the end of the passage and opened it. He peeped into the room there and then came back to the others. "All clear," he said. "We'll take the secret passage to my bedroom now." So now he goes outside through the door and he sees, okay, very great, nobody's there. So nobody probably saw them get into the dark passage. Now he tells them that they'll take a secret passage to his bedroom. Very exciting, right? No one will see us then. And once we are there, we can make plans to hide Timmy. Ready? A secret passage sounds thrilling. The children loved the idea of hearing about a secret passage and found it very thrilling, feeling rather as if they were in an adventure story. The children went quietly to the door and into the room beyond. It was a dark oak paneled room, evidently a study of some sort. So, a study, as we talked in chapter 1, I think, it's basically a room dedicated for doing hard work, dedicated for working, studying, basically anything, but a dedicated room. There was a big desk there, and the walls were lined with books. There was no one there. So the dark passage that they had entered, then they opened a small door, a oak door. Oak is a kind of wood, okay? It's a tree. So that was the material of the door. So they opened the oak door, and over there they suddenly entered into a room. It was a study which was completely empty. Sooty went to one of the oak panels on the wall, felt along it deftly. So he carefully felt along the oak panels. There must have been a wall which had many different wooden panels, wooden sheets. Okay, and since he was going around the wall and checking out the panels. I think one of them was must have been a secret button to open another door. Let's see. So Sooty went to one of the oak panels in the wall, felt along it carefully, and pressed it in a certain place. The panel slid softly aside. Sooty put in his hand and pulled at something. A much larger panel below slid into the wall and left an opening big enough for the children to pass through. Come on, said Sooty in a low voice. Don't make a row. Don't make any sound, okay? Feeling excited, the children all passed through the opening. Sooty came last and did something that shut the opening and slid the first panel back into its place again. He switched on a small torch, for it was pitch dark where the children were standing. So, pitch dark basically means it was completely dark. There was not a single source of light. Now, how did Sooty open the secret panel again? There were many wooden panels on the wall, and Sooty went and pressed one of the wooden panels carefully, and a small opening opened in the wall. Now, inside that wall, there must have been a switch of some sort that Sooty pressed, and the whole wall slid open. So, where has this come from? Children, you realize, right? This is a very old house, hundreds of years old. And in old castles and old houses, there were generally secret panels. For example, you might have heard of kings in India. For example, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, he had palaces, right? And we all know that he was a very brave warrior, and all the castles in his house had secret tunnels to attack the enemy, so that they could do it properly and actually very have a very big impact and win, right? So there were all these secret tunnels in houses. It's a very old story. So it's a story of that time. Now, after the wall opened, the children walked through. They were in a narrow stone passage, so narrow that two people could not possibly have passed one another unless both were as thin as rakes. So a thin passage opened up, okay? Sooty passed his torch to Julian, who was in front. Keep straight on till you get to the stone steps, he said. Go up them, turn to the right at the top, and keep straight on till you come back to a blank wall, and I will tell you what to do. So Julian was at the front, and Sooty had a torch, right? So Sooty gave the torch to Julian, who was at the front, since the front person needs the torch. Others can follow him. So he tells them what to do. He tells them to keep going on, and then some stone steps will come in the dark passage. And then after he climbs the stone steps, he will have to turn right. And after turning right, he'll again come to a blank wall that he cannot proceed. And Sooty tells him, when you reach there, I will tell you what to do. Julian led the way, holding up the torch for the others. The narrow passage ran straight and came to some stone steps. It was not only very narrow, but rather low. So low that Anne and Maribel were the only ones who did not have to bend their heads. Anne didn't like it very much. She never liked being in a very narrow enclosed space. It reminded her of dreams she sometimes had of being somewhere she couldn't get away from. She was glad when Julian spoke. The steps are here. Up we go, everyone. Don't make a row, said Sooty in a low voice. So the passage was very low. It wasn't as long as tall in height, you know. So everybody had to duck, and probably Anne and Maribel, since they were very young kids, they did not have to duck. They did not have to bend their heads, but everyone else had to. And now they have finally reached the stone steps. Okay, kids. And Sooty tells them, "Don't make a row. Don't make any noise." Because these tunnels, if you make noise, it's a tunnel in the house, right? So if you make noise, people are going to hear outside. So please be silent and proceed. Sooty says, we are passing the dining room now. There's a way into the passage from there too. Everyone fell silent and tried to walk on tiptoe. Though this was unexpectedly difficult when heads had to be bent and shoulders stooped. So everybody felt very silent and they started walking on tiptoe. And shoulders stooped means when you curve your shoulders towards the front, right? When you try to bend your head, your shoulders turn towards the front. So that is what shoulder stooped means. They climbed up 14 steps, which were quite steep and curved around halfway. So there were stone steps, and now they were climbing on top of it, and they did, and now they are going to reach the top. After reaching the top, they have to turn right to the right side. Julian turned to the right at the top. The passage ran upwards then and was as narrow as before. Julian felt certain that a very fat person could not possibly get along it. He went on until, with a start, he almost bumped into a blank stone wall. So he took a right and he started walking, and then suddenly a wall came, the wall that Sooty had warned him of, and he almost hit that wall. He flashed his torch up and down it. A low voice came from the back of the line of the children. Sooty says, you have got to the blank wall, Julian. Shine your torch up to where the roof of the passage meets the wall. You will see an iron handle there. Press down on it hard. Julian flashed his torch up and saw the handle. He put his torch into his left hand and grasped the thick iron handles with his right. He pressed down as hard as he could. So he has reached the blank wall, and Sooty from the last, Sooty is the last person. Okay, Sooty is the last person in the line of children. So Sooty tells Julian, great, you have come here now. Now point the torch upwards. Okay, at the very top point, which is almost touching to the ceiling, there is an iron handle. So Julian points the torch and he sees the iron handle. He pushes the iron handle down, and with all his might, he pushed it down very hard, and suddenly something happened. Quite suddenly, the great stone in the middle of the wall slid forward and sideways, leaving a gaping hole. Julian was astonished. He let go of the iron handle and flashed his torch into the hole. There was nothing but darkness there. So, on pressing the handle, the stone wall moved. This is very exciting, right? So, the stone wall moved, and there was a hole in the wall now that the children could pass through. And Julian and all the kids were astonished. Astonished means they were surprised. They were shocked on seeing the wall move. But there was nothing but darkness after crossing the hole. Let's see what's happening. It's all right, said Sooty. It leads into a big cupboard in my bedroom, called Sooty from the back. Get through, Julian, and we will follow. There won't be anyone in my room. So Sooty tells him, okay, this is, you see a dark hole, but go in it. That hole is going to come out in my room. Okay, it's directly connected to my room. So just go and you will reach my room. Julian crawled through the hole and found himself in a spacious cupboard hung with Sooty's clothes. He groped his way through them and bumped against a door. He opened it, and at once daylight flooded into the cupboard, lighting up the way from the passage into the room. One by one, the others clambered through the hole, lost themselves in clothes for a moment, and then went thankfully into the room through the cupboard door. So the hole was connected to Sooty's cupboard. Okay, so it wasn't connected to Sooty's cupboard, but the wall that the hole opened onto, in front of that hole, there was Sooty's cupboard. So once Julian crawled into it, he had to put in a lot of effort to crawl and reach into Sooty's cupboard because the hole was not very big. So there were a lot of clothes. So after removing the clothes from his face, he opened the door and he reached, and sunlight hit him. Since the door obviously had light, so light came into the passage, and he finally got into the room, and everybody else followed. Timmy the dog, puzzled and silent, followed close behind George. He had not liked the dark, narrow passage very much. He was glad to be in daylight again. Sooty, coming last, carefully closed the opening into the passage by pressing the stone back. It worked easily, though Julian could not imagine how. There must be some sort of pivot, he thought. So they are there, and Sooty was the last kid who had to come. And after coming, he pushed the stone that had opened and that had moved, right, to let the children go. He pushed it back into place. Sooty joined the others in his bedroom, grinning. Grinning is smiling, is laughing. George had her hand on Timmy's collar. It's all right, George, said Sooty. We are quite safe here. So George was still holding on to Timmy so that Timmy did not run away. And if he ran away into the house, then people would see him, right? So Sooty tells her, "Meh, it's all fine. You don't need to hold Timmy. We are quite safe here. My room and Maribel's are separate from the rest of the house. We are in a wing on our own, reached by a long passage." He opened the door and showed the others what he meant. There was a room next to his, which was Maribel's. Beyond stretched a stone-floored, stone-walled passage laid with mats. At the end of it, a big window let in light. There was a door there, a great oak one, which was shut. "See, we are quite safe here all by ourselves," said Sooty. So now Sooty, to assure everyone, he shows them the room. After in Sooty's room, outside Sooty's room, there's a long passage, a long corridor. Okay, like how we have in our houses. And opposite Sooty's room, there is Maribel's room. Okay, and the passage has a door to get into the passage. In our houses, in mine or your house, if there is a corridor in our house, it probably does not has a door, but Sooty's house has. Okay, so since there is a door and somebody when they open it, they will get to know, right? Since it's a door, let's see what happens. But at least they're protected by a door. Timmy could bark if he liked, and no one would know, said Sooty. Okay, must be a very big house for that to happen. But doesn't anyone ever come? Said Anne, surprised. Who keeps your room tidy and cleans them? Asked Anne. So now Sooty is telling them, "Oh, you are all safe." So Anne is surprised. Will no one come this side of the house? So Sooty tells her, "Oh, Sarah comes and does that every morning," said Sooty. "But usually no one else comes. And anyway, I've got a way of knowing when anyone opens that door." Okay, this is getting exciting. So the only person who usually comes to the side of the house is Sarah to do the cleaning. Otherwise, the kids are probably also staying on the other side of the house where the parents live and everything. And it's a big castle, okay? Remember, maybe your house or my house won't have a different side to our house because we live in probably smaller houses than the castle that Sooty Lenore lives in. And then Sooty tells him, "That's okay. If there's a door, very good. But even if anyone opens that door, I have a way of knowing." Let's see what that way is. He pointed to the door at the end of the passage. The others stared at him. "How do you know?" asked Dick. "I've rigged up something that makes a buzzing noise here in my room as soon as that door is opened," said Sooty proudly. So Sooty tells them of the basic alarm that he has made on his own. When somebody opens the door, there's a buzzing noise in his room. "Look, I will go along and open it while you stay here and listen," said Sooty. He sped along the passage and opened the heavy door at the end. Immediately, a low buzzing noise started somewhere in the room and made everyone jump. Timmy was startled too. Startled means shocked. He pricked up his ears and growled fiercely. Sooty shut the door and ran back. "Did you hear the noise? It's a good idea, isn't it?" So Sooty is very proud of his invention and he asks them, "Did you hear the noise?" "I am always thinking of things like that," said Sooty. The others thought they had come to rather a strange place. They stayed around Sooty's bedroom, which was quite ordinary in its furnishing and in general untidiness. There was a big diamond paned window, and Anne went to look out of it. So now that that is taken care of, the children are relieved and they start looking around Sooty's bedroom. It had the normal furnishings. It had a bed, it had a table, the normal things, and it was okay. And towards the end of the room, there was a window and a diamond paned window. By a diamond paned window, what the author here means is it's basically a window with crisscross railings. It has a railing on the other side of the window, okay, a grill. And Anne went to look out of the window. She gave a gasp. So, out of shock, she said, "Oh," she had not expected to look down such a precipice. Smuggler's Top was built at the summit of the hill, and on the side where Sooty's bedroom was, the hill felt away steeply, down and down to the marsh below. "Oh, look," she said, "look how steep it is. It really gives me a very strange feeling to look down there." The others crowded around and looked in silence, for it certainly was strange to gaze down such a long way. The sun was shining on the hill summit, but all around, as far as they could see, mists hid the marsh and the far off sea. The only bit of the marsh that could be seen was far down below, at the bottom of the steep hill. So Anne went to the window and she looked down, and she saw and she looked down at such a precipice. So what this word means is a very steep, a very slopy cliff. Okay, a very steep cliff, a very slopy rock. So the house is on a hill, right? So it's obvious that she's going to look down, and she's going to see a very steep cliff, a steep hill. And they see around, and they noticed that Smuggler's Top was actually built at the top of the hill, and everything around it, around the hill, from the window, you could only see the marsh and nothing else. "When the mists are away, you can see over the flat marshes to where the sea begins," said Sooty. Now the children from the window could not even see the marshes because it was misty, because there was fog and there were clouds. So Sooty tells them, when the mists are away, when it's a clear day, when the sun is shining bright and it's a clear day, you can see the marshes to where the sea actually begins. That's quite a fine sight. You can hardly tell where the sea and the marsh separate, except when the sea is blue. So Sooty tells them it looks very beautiful. "Fancy, once upon a time, the sea came right up and around this hill, and it was an island." "Yes, the innkeeper told us that," said George. "Why did the sea go back and leave it?" So, as we remember in our earlier chapters, we had discussed that the hill was on an island which was surrounded by sea, but the sea had slowly dried off from that area and moved back, right? So, George asks, "Why did the sea go back and leave it?" "I don't know," said Sooty. "People say it's going back farther and farther. So, that's just the thing, right? Nobody knows why. It's just happened. There's a big scheme afoot to drain the marsh and turn it into fields. But I don't know if that will ever happen." "I don't like that marsh," said Anne with a shiver. "It looks wicked somehow." Timmy whined. George remembered that they must hide him and make plans for him. She turned to Sooty. "Did you mean what you said about hiding Tim? She asked. "Where shall we put him? And can he be fed? And how can we exercise him? He's a big dog, you know." So Sooty also tells them that the whole marsh, it's very wet, right? And you can't even walk on it. So there's a plan. Probably the government is planning over there to drain the marsh, to remove the water, and so that only the soil is left. That way, it will turn into fields, right? And then you can maybe grow crops on it or build houses, and it will become usable land. So all this is very good. George then asks him, "What about Timmy? How we have got him here, okay, but how are we going to give him food? How are we going to take him for walks? How are we going to exercise the dog?" All these questions. "We will plan it all," said Sooty. "Don't you worry. I love dogs, and I shall be thrilled to have Timmy here." So he's very excited to have Timmy, and he tells her, "Don't worry, we'll look after it. But I do warn you that if my stepfather ever finds out, we shall probably all get a jolly good thrashing, and you will be sent home in disgrace." But why doesn't your father like dogs? Said Anne, puzzled. Is he afraid of them? So Suti tells her that's okay. We'll plan everything, but don't let my father see the dog. No, I don't think so. It's just that he won't have them here in the house, said Suti. I think he must have a reason for it, but I don't know what it is. He's a strange sort of man, my stepfather. How is he strange? Asked Dick. Well, he seems full of secrets, said Suti. Strange people come here, and they come secretly without anyone knowing. I've seen lights shining in our tower on certain nights, but I don't know who puts them there or why. I've tried to find out, but I can't. So Suti gives a description of his father, and he's saying that he's a very strange person, and strange people come to meet his father because he's a scientist, right? So scientists come and he's just a kid. So let's see what he's talking about. Now that he has given such a exciting description of his father, Anne asks, "Do you think? Do you think your father is a smuggler?" Smuggler, right? That criminals who transport goods from one place to another without paying for them, of course. I don't think so, said Suti. We have caught one smuggler here, and everyone knows him. See that house over there to the right, lower down the hill? Well, that's where he lives. He's as rich as can be. His name is Barling. Even the police know his goings on, but they can't stop him. He's very rich and very powerful, so he does what he likes, and he won't let anyone play the same game as he plays. No one else would dare to do any smuggling in Castaway while he does it. So Anne asks Suti, is your father a smuggler since you have given us such a strange description of him? So Suti tells her, probably not. I don't think so. And then he goes on and tells her about Mr. Barlick. He says that there's a person called Barling and he's very rich and powerful. And everyone here thinks that he's a very bad person. Even the police know about him, but he's so powerful that nobody does anything. So new character into the story, kids, Mr. Barling. This seems rather an exciting place, said Julian. I have a kind of feeling there might be an adventure here somehow. Oh no, said Suti. Nothing ever happens really. It's only just a feeling you get here because the place is so old, so full of secret ways and pits and passages. Why, the whole hill is mined with passages in the rock used by smugglers of olden times. So Julian is very excited and tells him, we are probably going to find an adventure here. And Suti tells him, we are just getting this feeling because the house is very old. At old places, you get an excited feeling, right? That there can be something to discover. Well, began Julian and stopped very suddenly. Everyone stared at Suti. His secret buzzer had suddenly barked from its hidden corner. Someone had opened the door at the end of the passage. End of chapter 5. Very exciting, right? So they're discussing everything, and Suti tells them no one generally comes to that door. And suddenly there's a noise in Suti's room. What does this noise mean? Yes, it means that the door in the passage has been opened. Someone is probably coming towards Maribel and Suti's room, and everybody is surprised. Let's see who comes. Let's see what happened. We'll meet in the next chapter. Thank you for joining in for this chapter.